This is Pete, North Las Vegas. We're going to be talking about this LR308 again, but before we get back to the rifle, I wanted to talk about an old problem I had with some magazines that I bought for this rifle. And that's the Durmag on the left and this D&H Tactical on the right. And I had a lot of problems with these magazines, and I finally realized that they're never going to work. They're not going to work in my rifle, and they're probably not going to work in your rifle. And I'll show you why. So both the Durmag on the left and the D&H Tactical on the right allow the back of the rounds to tilt down below the feed lips. And this causes all kinds of feeding issues and jams, and the bolt to right over the top of these rounds. Now you would think that with some shock and recoil and vibration that these things would kind of reset themselves. So even if you loaded this, and weren't paying attention, and let me see if I can, now I'm going to tap this pretty hard. And you can see that it's still tilted down in the back. And this D&H should do the same thing. And it's still tilted. So these followers are a poor design. They are not anti-tilt followers. And the spring in the Durmag isn't too bad, but the spring in the D&H Tactical is very weak. I've been hanging on to these things for a long time, trying to figure out what to do with them. I was thinking about maybe making a rifle stand or turning them into a lampshade or something like that. But I've just decided they're going in the trash. So why are they going in the trash? Well, I bought the Duramags from Sportsman's Warehouse and lost the receipt. So they're not going to take them back without a receipt. I got the D&H Tactical from Wilson Combat. Wilson Combat in their email to me said that I have three options. I could exchange these. I could exchange these for a like value different manufacturer mag, or I could just get my money back. But they did put a little caveat in their email saying that before all that would happen, I'd have to send these back and their inspection team would have to take a look at them. Okay, I'm pretty sure their inspection team, once I described the problem, would, they're going to be honest about it. And I probably could have got my money back from Wilson Combat, but I don't know. It's been so long now. They're just going in the trash. I looked for different followers. I was even maybe going to try to make my own springs and see if I could fix the issue. But no, I've made my final decision. Both these Duramags for LR308 DPMS patterns and this D&H Tactical, the metal box, they're junk. Because I'm an honest person, I'm not going to try to sell these to anybody. And I'm not even going to try to give them away because they're just not going to work. So like I said, they are going in the trash. So the vise was too much work. D&H Tactical, you're first. Durmag, you're next. That was a good one there. So you should have took those old mags out and shot them. Well, I had just as much fun taking a hammer to them, and shooting them would have cost me about $1 each. That's if I hit them the first time. Okay, so let's take a look at some magazines that have been working in my LR308. And that's the Lancer and the Magpul. Now, I am starting to notice some issues on these magazines too. So let's take a look at that one. Mag pull on the left is the one I've been using, and the mag pull on the right is unused. So if I let the bolt go into battery on an empty magazine, the bolt lug is hitting the back of this follower, and it's starting to chew it up a little bit. So the solution to this is Magpul changes the design of their follower a little bit and maybe changes the ramp angle or something, or I don't let the bolt go home on an empty magazine. So that's what's happening to the back on an empty magazine, no rounds. So long as I have a round in it, you know, there's no issues. Obviously, the round's going to hold the follower down out of the way. Now on the front, I really don't see any issues. On the Lancer, we got kind of the opposite problem. Okay, so Lancer on the left is the used one. Lancer on the right is unused. So the problem with the Lancer is after the last round and the magazine is empty, I kind of getting the same thing, just a very, very small amount on the very corner here on the Lancer from the bolt lug hitting the follower. But most of the problem is on the front of the magazine. So now the used magazine is on the right because I just turned them around. Duh. Captain Obvious here. Okay, so if you look at the front here on the used magazine, you can see where the bolt lug catches the follower on the way back. So there's no way around that one. That's going to happen as the bolt cycles normally during firing. Whereas on the Magpul, that's just letting the bolt carrier go, or the bolt carrier group when the magazine is empty. So the Lancer may end up being, at some point, I don't know if that's going to become a problem or not. I mean, they both work, so I'm not having any issues, but I just noticed some unusual wear. And we'll take a look at some AR-15 magazines just to compare. So I've used these 20 rounders quite a bit in my AR-15s, and no issues on the followers that I can see. Maybe a little tiny bit of a ding on the very top of the Magpul here. But the original GI design follower, I don't see anything going on with that. Top one is in the rifle that's been acting up. Bottom one is in the rifle that works. They are both Aero Precision. I push these things up and down inside the buffers. There's nice and smooth. There's no hang-ups. I can get the bumper all the way compressed to the back of the buffer, so the springs are not binding up. I mean, I don't think this is any issue between the rifle that works and the one that doesn't. Now, this one has a little more rattle, like the weights in it are moving around. This one, you can feel it, but it's not making as much noise. Now, this has twice as many rounds on it as this one, so maybe just the rubber pads that the spacers in between the weights inside are a little more worn. I don't know. Anyway, this one makes a little bit more noise than this one, but they both move inside, so that tells me that okay, well, it doesn't tell me anything, but I believe that the weights are not the problem. Checked hammer travel and tension on both rifles, and they feel about the same. Couldn't detect any differences between the rifles on these Wilson Combat triggers. So I think we're good there. So this was the Aero Precision bolt catch that I originally had in the second rifle that I built that I was having trouble with. And I don't know if that's an unusual amount of bolt lug wear as this latch comes up for the last round fired and the bolt comes back. I don't think it should be making quite that much contact, in my opinion. And it looked like it was scraping pretty good. And this is a New Frontier Armory. And this rifle has twice as many rounds in it as the one that doesn't work. And you can see that it barely has any contact marking on the top of its bolt catch. So in a couple videos ago, I told you why I took this out. It was actually sitting up a little bit higher in the rifle. This top edge was sitting up probably another, I want to say maybe 50 thousandths. Yeah, that much higher than the New Frontier Armory bolt catch. And in the other video, I was talking about how this bolt catch was actually catching the bolt carrier, not the bolt. Now, that could have been partly from short stroking, but if I'm going to have a bolt catch, I don't want it to catch the bolt unless it's time to catch the bolt. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit more detail in the next clip. So on the New Frontier Armory bolt catch, you can see where it mates up with the bolt, how it's capturing the lugs. And I'll show you what the Aero Precision was doing. So when this Aero Precision was still installed in the rifle, that's about where it was sitting. And I may have an older video where it shows how much of the bolt lugs it was capturing. But like I was saying, this thing was sticking up in the rifle probably at least 50 thousandths taller. And it was catching the bolt lugs up around here. So I don't know. I think that's maybe more indicative of it was sitting too tall. I mean, you want it to catch as much of the lug as you can. You definitely want it to catch two lugs, not just one, like some bolt catches do. So on the LR308, on the last round, what was happening was this Aero Precision bolt catch was catching on the bolt carrier down here at the bottom instead of capturing the bolt lugs. So kind of like I was saying, further indication that this thing was just sitting up too high in the receiver on the last round on a bolt hold open. Now this also could have been partially due to short stroking maybe, but during normal firing, last round hold open, this would catch on the carrier, not the bolts. Odin Works on the left is the original bolt carrier group that I started out with in the rifle that's acting up. The Wilson Combat in the middle is the one that I just got done running in the rifle that's still acting up. And the Wilson Combat on the right came out of this rifle that has probably over 200 rounds on it. So I thought we'll do some close-ups. The Odin Works has about 60 rounds on it. And the Wilson Combat, the brand new one that I just got done running, about 40 rounds. And you can still see some shiny where the nitride's being burnished off. But on the Odin Works, you can see in some spots where metal is being moved around. Now this could all be a break-in issue on a new extension on a barrel. And here's the one that has like 200 rounds. And it looks pretty good. I mean, it's just polished. So I don't know. Maybe I didn't originally have a bolt problem with the Odin Works. Maybe it's more of an extension problem on the barrel. Something's slightly off there, but anyway. Rifle that's been acting up. Very smooth, like butter. It almost goes in a battery under its own weight. I'm just going to pick it up about halfway and let it drop. Came close to going in a battery all by itself. There it is. So no issues going in the battery. And this rifle, it has quite a few rounds in it more. It feels almost identical. I can drop it about halfway, same thing. Almost goes in a battery, takes very little effort to get it locked in. So unlocking, there is a little bit of a difference unlocking. This one unlocks quite a bit easier. And I'll try to do this one-handed, but it's not easy. So you won't be able to tell on video, but I'll try to walk you through it. So when I pull back on a charging handle to unlock it, there's a little bit more resistance. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. And that just could be because it's a newer bolt. This one here just unlocks like butter. I mean, just takes very little effort to unlock it. Okay, well, that time it did. But this one definitely a little bit stiffer. Not so much that I think it should be causing a short stroking issue, but it is a little bit stiffer. So after discovering that the Aero Precision bolt catch has the ability to catch the bolt carrier and not just the bolt like it's supposed to, in my opinion, I got curious and wondered if maybe one of my AR-15s does the same thing. And I just happened to grab one of my old Wyndham weaponries. Well, what I noticed with just the magazine in, and, you know, simulating a short stroke situation, I cannot get the bolt catch on this Wyndham to get hung up on the bolt carrier. The bolt carrier just goes past it. But what I noticed was if I put full tension on this bolt catch lever and then simulate a short stroke with or without the mag in, I can get the bolt catch to get caught up on the bolt carrier. And I'll get it caught up off camera, but I'll show you the end result because it's kind of hard to do one-handed. So by keeping tension on the bolt catch release button, I can get this AR-15 to do the same thing my LR308 is doing during firing. Now this rifle doesn't do this during firing. Now if I let go, it's probably going to release the bolt carrier. Yeah, so I just let go. So on the AR-15 here, if I don't put any pressure on the bolt catch release to force it up even higher than it wants to go with the spring and detent, and I just pull it back, and sorry about the camera work, and it'll hold back on the bolt lugs like it's supposed to. And you can see the engagement. Maybe you can, I don't know. Looks like it's only catching one lug, which is different than the LR308, which catches mostly two lugs. So in the last video, I also took this rifle speed adjustable gas block apart. We looked for obstructions, made sure everything was lined up, and I couldn't find anything wrong with the gas block. I didn't see any signs of any gas leakage or any gas leakage in any amount that would cause this rifle to short stroke. So I'm pretty sure that for now we're good there. I did have some comments about asking me if I had pin gauged the exhaust or the gas porthole on the barrel, and no, I didn't. Wilson Combat does not list the size of the hole up front. You would probably have to get a hold of them to see where they drilled it. So I don't think pin gauging alone is going to be the answer for everything, other than it'll give you a starting point. You'll at least know what the size of the hole is. You won't know if the hole's too small. You won't know if the hole's too big as far as functioning of the rifle. Even if the manufacturer got the gas port hole drilled to their advertised or specified size, you know, it still doesn't necessarily mean that the gas port hole is the right size. But I think pin gauging your gas port is probably a good idea, so at least you know where it's at, and a starting point if you decide to open it up and make it a little bigger for whatever reason. So, short version, no, I didn't pin gauge the gas port hole. But I measured it with a pair of calipers, and I took another device and stuck it in there, and I'm probably within a couple thou, and it's somewhere between 86 and 88. So this next part of the video, if you made it this far, is a little bit of a rant, and but I think it's kind of important. There was another commenter that was referring to my rifle as an AR-10, and he was giving me some suggestions. And so I responded back, and I said, yeah, if I ever build an AR-10, and I put laugh out loud after that. And then he came back with something else, and I said, well, my rifle's not an AR-10, it's a DPMS pattern. When DPMS first came up with their version of this platform, they referred to it as an LR308. I said, so that's what I call them. Now, between an AR-10, an AR-10B, and an AR-10A, there is very little parts compatibility. There's only a few parts that are interchangeable with the DPMS pattern. So like I said, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine that when people start calling these things on YouTube and everywhere else, they refer to this DPMS pattern as an AR-10. It's like, okay, well, if you don't want to call it an LR308, maybe the next best name would be AR308, but they are definitely not AR-10s. And here's another little bit of information which I've mentioned in other videos. You started out with an AR-10, and then the AR-10B was the next revision, and then Armalite came up with the AR-10A. Now, doesn't A come before B in the alphabet? But that's the order that they named their rifles to even help you be more confused. So you had AR-10, AR-10B, and then the AR-10A. That doesn't make any sense either. Okay, so we'll use Lancer as an example. Lancer does know the difference between an AR-10 DPMS pattern. You can see here, this is their magazine that I'm using on my LR308. And then down here, they make sure you know that, hey, this magazine is not going to work with an AR-10B model anyway. Now, Magpul, they don't really get too far into that. They just say, hey, our mags are for SR25 and M110, which is DPMS pattern. Okay, so Aero Precision, as far as I could tell, if you go look at all their 308 stuff, they refer to everything as M5. I don't remember anywhere seeing on their site descriptions, specifications, or whatever, where they're calling their rifle an AR-10. They just refer to it as an M5. Aero Precision is a DPMS pattern, and they use what's called a high pattern or high profile upper receiver. New Frontier Army that just is built on, this is a low pattern, and I discussed this in another video, so we're not going to hit that again. But there's also two different upper receiver patterns on a DPMS. There's the high profile or high pattern, and then there's the low. So if you really get into this, the industry, man, I wish they would just standardize at least what they call stuff. We'll use Wilson Combat as another example. Right here in their part number, they're calling this firing pin. They put it right in the part number AR-10. And then when you come to the back here, and you go through and you look at this, and you read this, and you read this, and then finally you get down here, and it says, drop-in mil-spec DPMS SR25 bolt dimensions not compatible with an AR-10. So this is not an AR-10 firing pin, but then up here in the part number, they're calling it AR-10. And if you go look at their description, they start off calling it an AR-10. So, like I said, just a pet peeve of mine. And if you don't know the difference and you start buying actual AR-10 parts and you're trying to put together a DPMS pattern, you're going to be in trouble real quick, or vice versa. You happen to have an AR-10, an AR-10A, or an AR-10B, and you're starting to try to put DPMS LR308 parts on that. You're going to get in trouble real quick. So anyway, like I said, pet peeve of mine. It's not just parts that aren't standardized, it's what they call them. All right. Pete, North Las Vegas. Thanks for watching. Over and out.